Hi there and welcome to this video. I recently flew on Air from Delhi to Dehradun. Having departed gate 43 at Terminal 3, we were going to take off from runway 28. That meant we parked the huge parking lot of grounded A320 and A321neo aircraft parked to the remote ramp opposite Terminal 2. These aircraft are not grounded because of Go Air's insolvency. These 14 Go Air and Go First aircraft and 6 Indigo aircraft are grounded due to the non-functioning of Pratt Whitney's geared turbofan PW1100G engines. How did it ever come to this for one of the world's top engine makers? Pratt Whitney is one of the most storied names in aviation engines. Starting out developing piston engines, they ended up with the super powerful Wasp Major. This engine was at the heart of the Vought Corsair, widely considered one of the greatest naval fighters of World War II. The Corsair played a major part in ending the Pacific War in the Western Allies' favor. But Pratt & Whitney's greatest moment came with commercial aviation. It was Pratt & Whitney engines that powered the Boeing 707, first the JT3 turbojet and then the JT8 turbofan. And it wasn't just Boeing, but the McDonnell Douglas DC-8 and DC-9 used Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines. And of course, the initial Boeing 737s also used Pratt & Whitney engines. But it was the development of the JT9D, the world's first high bypass ratio turbofan engine that went on the iconic Boeing 747 that set Pratt & Whitney apart. Of course, people may not remember it now, but Pratt & Whitney had a very troubled development of the JT9D, several engines failing during development. However, the high bypass turbofan set the template for all future commercial aircraft. In fact, in order to catch up with Pratt & Whitney, Rolls-Royce Aero Engines almost went bankrupt developing the RB211 for the Lockheed TriStar. But catch up the two rivals of Pratt & Whitney certainly did. Rolls-Royce had to go bankrupt developing the RB211 turbofan engine, but it served the company well in developing the Trent series of engines that today power aircraft from the A380 to the Airbus A350. Boeing also changed out the Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines for CFM engines on the wildly successful 737 range. And Boeing also moved to General Electric large turbofans, the GE90 family on the 777, and then the Gen X and the Rolls-Royce Trent on the 787. Pratt & Whitney found itself frozen out of the commercial aircraft market other than a tie-up with Rolls-Royce with International Aero Engines on the A320ceo and on the engine alliance with General Electric on the A380, but not enough to give a huge market share. But Pratt & Whitney had an ace up its sleeve. They called it the GTF, or geared turbofan. And the secret sauce over here was a gear between the high-speed core low-pressure turbine of the engine and the main fan blade of the engine that needs to operate slower. By separating the ratios of the two engines, they could offer incredible fuel economy. And they sold it hard, not only to Airbus with the A320neo, but also to Bombardier with the C300 series, which have now become the A220, and Embraer with the E2 E-jets. The engine was supposed to be a game changer, but it turned out to be not exactly quite that. The fantastic improvements in noise, in fuel economy, and in emissions reductions attracted a lot of airlines to Pratt & Whitney's geared turbofan. These included India's two leading low-cost airlines, Indigo and Go Air. Indigo placing an order for over 120 neo aircraft powered by the Pratt & Whitney geared turbofan, and Go Air starting out with 72 neo aircraft powered by the geared turbofan, eventually doubling their order to 144 A320neos, all powered by the PW1100G geared turbofan. But this was just the start of the problems. The geared turbofan had severe issues upon entry into service with both Indigo and Go Air. It turned out that the Pratt & Whitney geared turbofan engines were suffering serious issues, particularly in the dusty conditions of India, and required frequent replacement of certain items, particularly the leading edge seal on the engines. This led to the severe groundings of neo aircraft powered by the Pratt & Whitney geared turbofan. The same problem did not impact other A320neos powered by CFM's Leap 1A engines. While the Leap 1A was not as economical as the geared turbofan, at least it stayed on the wing. Both Air India and Vistara chose the Leap 1A engine to power their growing fleets of A320 and A321neo aircraft. In fact, after observing the serious problems with the Pratt & Whitney geared turbofan, Indigo switched the order to CFM-Leap 1A engines on the second half of their neo order. In fact, all newly delivered A320 and A321neos for Indigo have the Leap 1A engine. Unfortunately for Go Air, they were not able to change the order. According to news reports, over 230 engine replacements where an old engine is swapped in with a new engine or a refurbished engine, and 280 engine swaps where a working engine is taken from one aircraft and put on another have taken place for Go Air. Indigo also, with a significant fleet of A320 and A321neos operating the Pratt & Whitney geared turbofan, such as the very aircraft you can see I'm taking off on from Dehradun, has also replaced and swapped out a lot of geared turbofan engines. However, it must be noted that these two airlines are not the only two airlines to suffer from geared turbofan problems. The problems affect airlines from all across the world, from Air Baltic and their fleet of A220s, KLM and their fleet of Embraer E2 jets, Air New Zealand and their A320neos, Iraqi Air and their A220s, as well as Hawaiian Air and their A320neo aircraft. The Pratt & Whitney geared turbofan has caused problems for airlines across the world, but no other airline has gone bankrupt. However, some must give Go Air some slack over here. Despite the management issues, the fact of the matter remains that the engine troubles have been really severe, and few airlines can suffer over half their fleet being grounded. Do let me know if you like this video, like and subscribe to my channel, and be sure to comment on what you think Pratt & Whitney and Go Air should do next.